In the Bronx, the Dodgers up 3-1 in the best of 7. Anthony Volpe's third-inning grand slam overcame Freddie Freeman's record-setting home run. Freeman homered for his 6th consecutive series game, hitting a 2-run drive in the first. LA closed within 6-4 with a 2-run fifth that included Will Smith's homer off starter Luis Gil and an RBI grounder from Freeman. Austin Wells and Gleyber Torres added home runs for the Yankees, who broke the game open with a 5-run eighth. They had scored just 7 runs over the first 3 games. Game 5 is tonight. Yankees ace Garrett Cole gets the start. Jack Flaherty gets the ball for the Dodgers in a rematch of Game 1 starting pitchers. The Yankees win tonight forces Game 6. That'd be Friday in Los Angeles. Game 7, if necessary, Saturday in LA.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Fabric Talk.
Hello, my love. I am your living room carpet. I see everything. I feel everything. After a while, I smell like everything, including Sir Pickles, who you snuggle with while binging that dating show you can't stop watching. So, how about we freshen things up with Febreze Fabric Spray? Oh, and a big spray for my pals, couch and ottoman. Ah, yes, refreshing. Breathe happy, Febreze. La 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 la.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle, right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Lisi and Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. Some news and notes to get to, Scott. Indianapolis turning to the old man, Joe Flacco. He was able to do it with Cleveland last year, leading that team to a playoff appearance against Houston. Now he's going to get the reins taken over for Anthony Richardson. Richardson last week in week number 8 only completes 10 of 32 passes for $175, but it's the way he moved off the football field. He was exhausted, couldn't make it through the full game, the 60 minutes. Now the Colts turn to Joe Flacco. Answer a question. Do you feel this is the best move for the organization moving forward? And quite possibly, could this be the pinnacle potentially of paying first-round draft picks and free agent quarterbacks an exorbitant amount of money?
Is it the best move for the organization? Listen, you have a commitment to win, right? So I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer. You got guys on both sides of the fence. If you draft Richardson, what did they draft him? 4th overall? I mean, he's obviously your quarterback of the future. He couldn't really play for the most part last year. A lot of teams will put their starting quarterbacks in there, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Caleb Richardson or Williams rather. So you say, okay, we're going to have to learn through the lumps, but then the other side says, well, you got a commitment to 50 other players. And clearly he's not as good as Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco showed last year and he showed this year with the Colts. He's got a little something left, who knows for how long, but he definitely does. You have a much better chance of winning with Flacco in there. So, what do? Do you build for the future? You should, Joe, be able to still get Anthony Richardson on the same page with practice, right? But I will say this is not the old days where you could practice for 7 hours a day. There are limitations. You only have a couple of hours a day. You only have 1 day a week, literally, to be able to hit during practice because of, football rules nowadays. So it's not as easy to sit the bench and, think you're going to get your reps and everything if you're not the starter. You're not. So listen, you got to try and win. And in a weird sort of way, hope you lose. This way there's no answer to it. There's no debate rather to it. You put Richardson in at the end of the game, but, if you win a bunch of games in the AFC, you got to finish right around 9-8, and you're going to be competitive. So, ultimately, yeah, I'd put Flacco in. I would. Because Richardson's bad.
Think about this, Scott.
completion percentage is awful.
You're right. That's the biggest thing. And he struggled with that at Florida. But Flacco was able to lead this team in Cleveland last year to a playoff. Gardner Minshew had this team on the cusp of a playoff appearance in week 17. They lose to Houston, right? So the team was close entering this year. Anthony Richardson, a dynamic physical talent, but just hasn't been able to put it together in regards to the quarterback, the completion percentage, understanding how to read coverage. Maybe in time that will come. But then on the flip side, look at Bryce Young in Carolina. Right now, in 2 and 3 years in Carolina, the kid hasn't put it together. They have a decision to make. And think about this. The amount
their
of money
decision
that
is made, though,
paid,
Joe. That's the advantage of playing Bryce Young now. They know Bryce Young's not going to be the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. Can you say the same thing about Anthony Richardson with Indianapolis? If you don't play Richardson, you're not going to find out if he stinks. At least Carolina knows Bryce Young stinks.
He's obviously out of condition, right? 10 and 32. He took himself out of the game for exhaustion.
I think I think a lot more is being made to that. Listen, he doesn't know now, Joe, that, you know what, if I'm a little winded, I got to still stay in the game. I'm the quarterback. He doesn't quite know that. I don't think the guy was so exhausted he couldn't, walk. So help me off the field here. We're not talking about Kalen Winslow. We're not talking about Kalen Winslow and the Miami Dolphins, San Diego Chargers. Help you off the football field here, and then go right back in the next play.
McNabb had that issue, Scotty, with the Super Bowl, right? Where they lost, right? So, but did he take himself out of the football game? No. So, I mean, when you're the face of the franchise and you have, 52 other players looking at you, and even though you're a young player, you're supposed to lead that team by example. I mean, other quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, aren't coming off the field unless they're majorly injured in that type of situation, not due to exhaustion, not due to a conditioning problem. It wasn't like he was running the ball 50 times and he needed a blow. He had to be taken out. But let me ask you this. You brought up Bryce Young. Now you have Anthony Richardson, right? You see the situation play out with the $281 million with Deshaun Watson. Jameis Winston puts up 337 yards in that offense. Deshaun Watson in 2.5 years hasn't had a 300-yard performance, let alone a 200-yard performance this year. You saw Daniel Jones struggle on Monday night with another interception with the game on the line. So when I talk about the top of the market, they paid Daniel Jones $40 million a couple of years ago and extended him, right? And that led to the 55 from Jalen Hurts and what Joe Burrow got. When is enough? I believe this is the top of the market as it relates to the quarterback position. Teams are going to dial it back. Look at Trevor Lawrence now with his team under 500. You paid him a boatload of money. He's not living up to expectations. When is enough?
Yeah. All these young quarterbacks at this point have gotten their money, right? Whether it's Trevor Lawrence, whether it's Jordan Love, whether it's Joey B, there isn't like this past year we had a whole bunch. They're all gone. Dak Prescott, so I would think for the next 2-3 years, this would be it. I would have loved, Joe, for, and you need a guy like Jerry Jones, right, or a Robert Kraft, just to come out and say, I'm not paying you more than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, bar none. It's not even debatable. So here's what he's making, and we're going to start there and go lower. We're not going to start there and go higher. And if that's not good enough for you, then you know what? Go walk. That's what Jerry Jones really should have done versus setting the market. And then the excuse is, well, this is what the market is. No, you're making the market higher and higher and higher. So thank goodness that these NFL teams, put that rule in effect, where they don't, the Sam Bradford rule, where you don't have to pay these guys $1 gazillion coming out of college. Otherwise, you talk about throwing away money.
You're right.
So, but
can you
again,
see it going lower or higher? I mean, you're going to pay a quarterback in 2 or 3 years $80 million for 4 years, $320 million. When you see Jameis Winston, that's now on his third team, potentially, or fourth team, now all of a sudden having success. Backup quarterbacks are now having success where starters getting paid the big money aren't.
Yeah. Well, and then the NFL, is good by the owners by putting that rule in, but bad by the owners by allowing these teams to have to not have to, but can negotiate after 3 years. You think Jaden Daniels, you think Caleb Williams, the way these two guys are going, aren't going to be on that doorstep 2 years from now saying, hey, listen, 3 years, I'm allowed to. I know you got me under contract for 5, but you're allowed to give me a new deal after 3. I would have never agreed to that, but I guess you got to give a little bit in these negotiations. But yeah, you know what? If Jaden Daniels and Williams continue the way they're going, $60, $70 million, absolutely. $80 million 2 years from now. If everyone's making money, then the salary cap goes up. And these owners, instead of spreading it around the rest of the team, they just want to give it to the quarterback because you need an NFL quarterback.
We'll see, because I'll tell you this, Jaden Daniels is worth the money. Caleb Williams struggled a little bit. What did he have? 131 yards through the air, a total of 172 in that matchup. Granted, they had the fourth quarter lead. It was more due to the rushing attack and the defense in the second half of that matchup. But Caleb Williams, yes, he's a dynamic talent, but if he's not putting up dynamic numbers in terms of the body of work and his team is just, let's say, 7-10 this year, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years down the road, is he worth $70 million? Jaden Daniels, if he goes on this progression and they're the best team in the NFC East, that's a different story.
How about C.J. Stroud? I mean, listen, these guys aren't finished products, but the way they're going, Joe, the way, Caleb Williams is playing, you got to figure he's only going to get better. Daniels, C.J. Stroud, $70 million?
That's crazy. That is crazy. I'm going to call for the top of the market. Sell. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. When Scott and I return, we'll dive into week number 9 of the NFL season. It starts tomorrow night. Big game in MetLife. Big, bad Aaron Rodgers take on C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans coming up next.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A U.S. bankruptcy judge approved a sale of Tupperware brands on Tuesday, paving the way for the iconic food storage company to soon exit Chapter 11 protection and continue offering its products while undergoing a hope for revitalization. The sale, given the court's green light in Delaware, still is subject to closing conditions. Under terms of the deal, a group of lenders is buying Tupperware's brand name and various operating assets for $23.5 million in cash and more than $63 million in debt relief. Kentucky's startup medical cannabis program should be positioned to ramp up quickly, but having products available for some patients at the outset will be a challenge, according to Governor Andy Beshear. Beshear's administration took a big step forward Monday when a state-run lottery selected 26 applicants for cultivation and processor licenses. Those growers and processors will be issued medical cannabis licenses after paying their license fee within 15 days. The state's medical cannabis program begins January 1st. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have a full tank of gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, breaking down week number 9 action. We'll start in the big Thursday night game in MetLife. Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets again lost to the New England Patriots as 7-point favorites. It's their 5th loss in a row, Scotty. They face a Houston Texans team that is playing better than expected up until this point, 23-20. They get the victory over the Indianapolis Colts. C.J. Stroud and the crew are headed to not just a division title, but potentially a second or a third seed in the AFC playoffs. They're 1.5-point dogs in MetLife right now, plus 110 on the money line. Total is set at 42.5. I can't buy into the New York Jets. This might be a no play for me. I would take the points with Houston. I would take another approach as the first or second quarters play out. But for me, it's Houston and the over in this ballgame.
Oh yeah, I can't understand why a 2-6 football team is favored over a 6-2 football team. I mean, really, that there's a certain point where home field is nice, but am I really going to give the Jets would not be a pick 'em or even a 1-point underdog? I wouldn't think if they were playing this game in Houston, if you believe home field is worth maybe 2, 3, 4 points. So why are the Jets a 2-point favorite, Joe? I mean, there's a lot of talk here in New York. You're in Jersey there, that this could be it, for Aaron Rodgers. If they lose, they fall to 2-7. What are you doing? You have him under contract for next year for 35 million guaranteed, but the trade deadline is next week. And if you're 2-7, you're an interim head coach. You don't know if you're coming or going with this football team. That they may put him on the trade market. Would there be a team? I threw it out there, just Green Bay, because we had the Jordan Love injury, right? If that turned out to be a little bit more serious than what the Packers are now saying, how crazy would that be, trading him back to Green Bay, right? But what are you going to do with Aaron Rodgers? You're going to put him out there at 2-7? What's the point?
Yeah. This is what he wanted, Scotty. Are you kidding me? This is all Aaron Rodgers doing. He wanted Alan Lazard. He wanted all the pieces that he asked for in regards to free agency. He wanted Nate Hackett. He wanted Robert Salah fired. He wanted his buddy Tay to come over, and they traded for him with Las Vegas. He's gotten everything he's asked for. The only thing he hasn't gotten is wins. And again, that there's no chemistry or any type of continuity in the locker room. The young players don't know who to look to. Are they looking to Jeff Ulbrich, or are they looking at Aaron Rodgers to fix things, right? And at the end of the day, when does that defense quit? I could tell you this right now. Since Robert Salah left, that defense has regressed. They haven't been as elite, a top 10 unit that we saw maybe in the early part of the year. Certainly not the same team that laid it all on the line in London when they almost pulled that game out against Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Robert Salah's last game. They've been getting abused. I mean, you tell me you allowed Jacoby Brissett to drive 12 plays for 76 yards with the go-ahead touchdown with the game on the line. You tell me what the problem is in New York.
Yeah, it's just, and they used up three timeouts, Joe, in the first 10 plays of the game last week. Three. Now, you don't utilize the first half timeouts quite as stringent as you do the second half. I've never seen a team, though, need 3 timeouts all on offense because they don't know what they're doing. All the talk, a few weeks back about the cadence and all that stuff is all still there. It's amazing how bad this football team is, on both sides of the ball. Special teams as well. They got a field goal kicker who leads the NFL in misses, and Greg Zuerlein with 6. It cost them at least 2 football games. They're a mess. That's why I say, and you got an interim head coach. So I don't think you're planning on bringing him back right next year. So why not just blow the whole thing up, make trades, get rid of all these guys, and just really start all over again? I mean, again, I don't know why they're a favorite against you. I love Houston. Houston as a favorite, not good with C.J. Stroud. But as an underdog, great.
Yeah, well, they're 4-0 at home, Houston, 2-2 on the road, right? So they lost to Green Bay, and they dropped another game during the regular season. But my point is this. If they win that game against New England, are they making New York a 4-point favorite in this game?
Probably.
How could that? I thought the book had it wrong last week. They lost 4 in a row and had a touchdown favorite on the road.
Well, I think what the book is saying this week, Joe, is this is it for the Jets. No team has ever gotten to the postseason starting 2-7. So the season is absolutely on the line. And that influences a line a little bit. I don't think it should because, if they had that kind of power, they wouldn't be 2-6 to begin with. But you're going to get an absolute AA effort if you can get an A effort out of the Jets this week. And I think that's why they're a slight favorite. Or people are just still buying into the Aaron Rodgers rhetoric. Maybe that's just
Their updated win total is 6.5. It's juiced to the under at -115. Okay, you want to take a shot on over 6.5 wins, it's -104. But the conference division title has them as 37-1 shots behind Buffalo and Miami. The season's done, Scott. Season's done. This team to make the playoffs, I mean, you couldn't pay me to bet them, but I'll give you a price. To make the playoffs plus 570. You taking a shot?
You know, there are better 5-1 shots around the world of betting than that. You know, if you would have told me 9-1, 10-1, you know, it's the AFC. You know, their schedule's not great. It really isn't. It's a pretty easy. AFC East got a pretty easy schedule this year, which, you know, only makes the record that more alarming. So, I wouldn't throw out the dishes with the dirty dishwater just yet. This is really it.
No?
One more game. I'll give them Thursday. And I don't think they're going to win Thursday. This is not the right game for me to have, you know, if your season's on the line against a really good Texans team. But I wouldn't, you know, it's still the possibility is there. They got to throw the ball to Devontae Adams a little bit more. You make the big trade. You make the big splash. You bring your buddy over. 3 receptions 2 weeks ago. 3 meaningless receptions this past week, including one the final play of the game. I mean, you're not even utilizing him as part of your offense. Just another example of they don't know what they're doing over there.
He wanted his best friend there. He needed a little comfort and support. That's what it's all about. Jets after the Texans play Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle, and the Miami Dolphins, Scott.
Well, winnable.
We'll see what happens.
All winnable.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, but we'll see. We'll come back with more Week 9 talk right here on Football Full Circle.
There's smart and there's not smart. Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Keep it here and win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
This is an awesome power of George Foreman against the vaunted boxing skills of Muhammad Ali.
1974, the Rumble in the Jungle. Muhammad Ali KOs George Foreman in the 8th round in Zaire, Africa.
Muhammad Ali has done it. The great man has done it. I told you today, I'm still the greatest of all time.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Researchers at the University of Science and Technology of China have developed a soft robotic medical finger that can be used clinically to check your pulse, perform examinations, and even check for abnormalities under the skin. This robotic finger can even type like a human hand, spelling out words.
Goosebumps.
The goal? An intelligent, dexterous hand attached to a sensorized, artificial, pneumatic, muscle-driven robotic arm, mimicking the unparalleled functions and fine manipulations currently only possible with actual human hands. Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
As far as the pansy-ass Yankees are concerned, I was livid. Aaron Judge is ass mustard. He is literally the worst postseason player I've ever seen in my life. This guy is missing everything. He strikes out. He's an automatic K, and it is not changing. Congratulations to the Dodgers because they're going to be world champs.
It's Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. On the home of the winning edge. The SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go, there you are. Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you. So now you can get the winning edge anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you. If you got an earbud. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Continuing the conversation, week number 9 on the horizon. Lisi and Wetzel breaking it down. We left off talking about the Jets and Texans on Thursday night, Scott. Some other games of note. Let's jump right into it in regards to week number 9. We'll bounce around New Orleans and Carolina. I watched every play of the New Orleans Saints on offense and defense on the road against the LA Chargers. I mean, you want to talk about a pitiful performance and a dead man walking in their head coach, Dennis Allen. Absolutely pathetic, gutless effort. They played well, you want to say, from a defensive perspective. They didn't give up a lot of touchdowns. They did give up the big play to Ladd McConkey in the second half of that matchup, but they're laying 7, against the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young throws for 200, mostly in garbage time. They don't cover as basically a 10.5, 11-point dog against Sean Payton. They lose that matchup 28-14. I don't think New Orleans is 7 points better than anybody. I don't care who starts. Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler, Derek Carr. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to take the points with Carolina simply by default in this matchup.
Yeah, listen, I wish I knew if Andy Dalton was playing, but if it's Bryce Young, you can give me 20 points. You can give me 30 points. I'm not taking Carolina. He stinks. He's as bad can be. I think at this point when he's in there, the whole team is demoralized. They know they don't have a shot of winning, so let's find out who's starting at quarterback this week. If it's Dalton, I'll take the 7. If it's not, then give me New Orleans, even though, who wants to lay 7 points on the road with that New Orleans Saints team? But Derek Carr might come back this week. There's some buzz about that. So, but I can't put American money on Carolina. This is either a no-play Saints or maybe Saints in a teaser. Drop them down to basically pick them.
Yeah. The total has me a little intrigued. 43.5. I could maybe take a shot on that just because, if you can't put up 28 points on Carolina. Denver did it. As bad as New Orleans is, figure turnovers, figure the fact that, that defense should still be able to turn Bryce Young over at some point in that matchup. And if you're Dave Canales, just open up the playbook. You got players, J.C. Horn, complaining. This team is in disarray as well. They're not going to.
They just traded their best wide receiver, though. They just traded Deontay Johnson, one of the best wide receivers. What are they doing?
Leggett? Yeah, but, was he really the best? On paper, he's the best wide receiver.
3 touchdowns. That's more than anyone else on that goofy team.
Leggett drops a pass right in his breadbasket due to the sun in Denver. He was complaining about the sun. Go out there before the game and practice. I don't know what to tell you. Get used to the stadium. These players are ridiculous. Right in his breadbasket. Could have potentially maybe even had a touchdown on that play. How about this one? Rematch of the playoff game a couple of years ago. Raiders catching 7.5 against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Joe Burrow, were catching 2.5 last week against Philly. They were good for potentially a half. It was a deadlock, I believe, at 17. Then in the fourth quarter, the Eagles pull away. They win the matchup by 20 points. That was no T. Higgins in that lineup. It didn't matter. Defensively, they broke down. Are you back in Gardner Minshew? This team has covered 2 straight against L.A. and last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, catching 9.5 on the road. 46.5 is the total. I lean to the Bengals and the under.
Yeah, I can't back the Bengals anymore, and I was all over them. I thought they were going to the Super Bowl, the whole bit, but there's just something rotten to the core. Guys are more concerned about their paychecks than they are winning football games, whether it's Higgins, whether it's Chase. I think they rue the day when they let their running back mixing go from last year. I don't quite understand why they couldn't get that all together. It's the Bungles being the Bungles. So I'm done laying that kind of wood. Raiders with Minshew, they're not bad. They're not great by any stretch, and they're going to have some ugly performances where you're going to bail off them. But I was on them last week. I thought they would keep it close against the Raiders. They did. They got the touchdown for the backdoor cover. Cincinnati should not be laying 7+ points over anybody, Joe. So give me the Raiders to keep that close.
Yeah, I was on the Raiders last week, and again, they surprised me against the Rams. I thought they would play that rivalry game with Mahomes close to the vest, and you mentioned that they scored with about 2 minutes left. But in this type of spot, I just can't do it, right? Early kick, they're coming from Vegas, tough matchup. We'll see how that game plays out. Scott does like the Raiders. I like the other side in terms of the Bengals in that matchup. We'll touch on these 2 games coming up, Miami and Buffalo. Want to talk about disappointing Mike McDaniel. I said it before, I'll say it again. Gutless head coach. We'll talk Buffalo and Miami coming right back.
The winning edge. You've got it. But not everybody has it because not everybody listens to us. But we're working on that. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
World Series, the Yankees have forced Game 5 after an 11-4 win last night in the Bronx. The Dodgers up 3-1 in the best of 7. Anthony Volpe's third-inning grand slam overcame Freddie Freeman's record-setting home run. Freeman homered for his 6th consecutive series game, hitting a 2-run drive in the first. LA closed within 6-4 with a 2-run fifth that included Will Smith's homer off starter Luis Gil and an RBI grounder from Freeman. Austin Wells and Gleyber Torres added home runs for the Yankees, who broke the game open with a 5-run eighth. They had scored just 7 runs over the first 3 games. Game 5 is tonight. Yankees ace Garrett Cole gets to start. Jack Flaherty gets the ball for the Dodgers in a rematch of Game 1 starting pitchers. The Yankees win tonight forces Game 6. That'd be Friday in Los Angeles. Game 7, if necessary, Saturday in LA.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Halloween's coming alive at Target. Jackie and Gordy, the Jack-O-Lanterns, here with last chance Halloween deals. Looks like Mom's got the old pumpkin bucket stocked with the best candy, starting at $5.99.
Lucky pumpkin bucket. Oh, there's Dad party planning with a same-day delivery order.
Yes, it's a BOGO 50% off pizza party with Target Circle. Plus, buy 3, save 40% on soda 12 packs with Target Circle.
Nice saves, Dad.
Make your Halloween come alive at Target. Need it last minute? Get same-day delivery with Target Circle 360. Restrictions apply.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com. Days are getting cooler and shadows are getting longer. You know what that means? It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, breaking down number 9. On Friday, we'll go through every game on the Week 9 slate, but we're taking some of the best games and some of the under-radar games just to talk about right here with me and Scott. Buffalo and Miami, another dominant road win for the Buffalo Bills. They knock out Seattle and Geno Smith 31-10. They did it on both sides of the ball. They forced turnovers. We saw the emergence of James Cook on the ground. That's a dynamic addition when he's healthy, Scott, in that lineup. Josh Allen hitting Dalton Kincaid. We know Miami sucks. Let's just be honest, right? To lose that game with Tua coming back, we've always said it. Forget the offense. This team has no identity on defense. They can't take games over. Mediocre offenses are able to score on them at will. They're catching 6.5 now in Buffalo. I don't know. The line is telling me Miami, but I can't back that. What I can back, Scott, is the 49.5 in this ballgame.
Beating over or under?
Over.
Over, yeah, I was going to say. I'm surprised the line is only 6.5, Joe. And I've seen some 6.
It's begging you to take Buffalo, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Buffalo's beat Miami 12 of their last 13 meetings. They never win up in Buffalo. I mean, they're a disgrace right now. They don't know if they're coming or going. And Buffalo's playing their best football this season, and they're only a 6-point favorite. Kind of weird. I mean, and I know we're only in week number 8, 9 here in the NFL season, but we could, if Buffalo wins and the Jets do what they're supposed to do and lose Thursday against Houston, we're going to start talking about mathematical number for Buffalo to clinch the division already. You know, we're not even halfway through the season. They're going to have a 5-game lead, Joe. I mean, it's crazy how this AFC East is just so bad. I can't put Miami 12-1. They never win. Dolphins 1-9 against the spread. Their last 10 games, obviously dating back to last year. That's with and without Tua. I don't see it at all. Give me Buffalo. Great teaser also. You know, is really Buffalo going to lose at home? I don't think so. Put them in a 6-point tease as well if you want to.
Well, here's the thing. I think the only game that they even came close to covering was the playoff game when Skylar Thompson started.
Yeah.
And they lost that 32-29. They were getting like 12 and a half, right? Last year, didn't they lose by 28? That was the game that Josh Allen in week 2 or 3 just exploited them, and they won that game by 28 points up in Buffalo. I don't know what the weather report is going to be, but if there is a little chill in the air, I know here it'll be a little, balmy. But if it's anywhere near the 40s or 50s in Buffalo, I have no confidence. And Tua played well last week. It has nothing to do with Tua, nothing to do with the offense. We know they can move the football. Can our defense stop Josh Allen? Can we stop anybody? And that's been, you got rid of Christian Wilkins. They don't make halftime adjustments. Like, I just don't know how you could buy into Miami big picture. How can we? Yeah. I mean, I want to take the 6.5 just because I think the line is very fishy, especially knowing how dominant Buffalo is. But I don't feel comfortable in any capacity. I do like the over because if Miami is trailing, they're going to throw it.
Right. Yeah. And listen, Miami's a public team, right? With Tyreek Hill and Boy Wonder on the sideline. Yeah, there's still a carryover from Marino. People love them. People need the NFL wants Miami to do well. The NFL is better when the Dolphins are good. There's no two ways about it. So, and it's a division game, and you don't generally lay that many points in division games. And it's kind of like the Jets, Joe. Dolphin season basically is on the line. I mean, you lose here. I mean, realistically, that's it. You're done. So, but you know what? Just like with the Jets, I'm not willing to bet into that. I'm willing to say, yeah, they're done. Jets are done. Dolphins are done. I mean, the Bills got bigger fish to fry.
Scotty. They'd be 2-6.
Yeah, that's it.
2-6.
Are they going to get in at 2-6? I mean, they'd have to have the miracle comeback, right? Realistically, so
they would have to win. Probably at 2-6, 7 of 8, 9 and 8, maybe
10 and 7, depending on tiebreakers. 10 and 7 will probably get you.
I mean, at 2-6, they'd have to rip off 8 and 9, which is like,
not happening.
That's not happening. No way.
Yeah,
and the way they allow Kyler Murray in the fourth quarter to move that football, forget it. How about this one? This is an intriguing one, Scotty, because we have Detroit hot as a pistol. They thought they were playing in the Big 12 last week, right? You want to run up tempo? Yeah, well, special teams, defense, we won't even throw it with Jared Goff. We'll run it right down your throat. They win it by double digits, a dominating home win over the Tennessee Titans. They're laying 3.5 against Green Bay. Jordan Love is out with the groin injury. It'll be Malik Willis. 48.5, Scotty. I lean to the under. And I would take a shot with Green Bay because I think they run it to shorten the game.
That makes sense, but I'm just completely the opposite. I'm going Detroit, and I'm going over because Willis showed a little something this past week, right? And maybe he's actually gotten better, which just goes to show. I was talking to Ben this yesterday. Matt LaFleur, you got to start giving him a lot of credit. I know he had Aaron Rodgers. I get all that stuff, but he's shown he's more than Aaron Rodgers. Turning Jordan Love into a big-time quarterback, winning with Malik Willis, for goodness sake. Nobody could do that. But
he didn't have a touchdown pass, Scott. Guy didn't have a touchdown pass in his career.
Oh, right. Yeah. Had to get over to Green Bay. And yet
in every game, Matt LaFleur found out how to give a Malik Willis the second coming, right? He's rejuvenated.
But I can't go against Detroit, Joe. Detroit, at this point, I don't care who they're playing. I don't care where they're playing. I'm betting Detroit. They're against the spread numbers. It's scary good. 41 and 7.
Even with the key number?
Doesn't matter. I'll lay 12 if they make it 12. 41 and 17 against the spread the last 3 years. 7 and 1 as road favorites. I mean, just every number possible is beyond belief. They don't lose. 15 and 3 against the spread their last 18 road games, including 10 and 1 their last 11. I mean, you can't bet against this team. You just can't. I mean, they cover, and they've done the remarkable thing of going from a completely bad team and covering as an underdog, transitioning to a halfway decent team, still covering, and now transitioning into a big-time football team and being a favorite, including on the road, and still covering. Like, they've spanned the gamut here. There's no way I'm betting against Detroit ever. including this
All
week.
right, I really like Green Bay. I'm going to take a shot because I think this, again, I could see this game being, like 21-20, like an ugly type of game. I actually think Green Bay at home, the fact that if it was on the road, I'd take a different approach. No shot. I think Detroit is a dominant home team. I would take a shot with Green Bay at home. Josh Jacobs, Malik Willis, forget the passing attack. You can't go toe-to-toe with Goff. Shorten the game and see how it plays out. How about Dallas? Back-to-back road games, they're catching 2.5. The defense can't stop anybody. Mike Zimmer already has one foot out the door. Dak Prescott, CD Lamb. Look, I hate Dallas. I don't like them right now. But against Atlanta and Kirk Cousins, I like them in that matchup. I think they win it outright.
I can see that. For whatever reason, Atlanta, with or without Kirk Cousins, it's just always been this way, Joe. They play better on the road than they do at home. They got one of the worst home records in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years. I loved them last week in Tampa Bay. Didn't think they would lose. They won. They come home. It's a winnable game. Kind of put their stamp on that division, which is, going from bad to worse, right? But chances are the Cowboys win. I actually like Dallas as well. Falcons just don't cover back-to-back games. They just don't.
No, I agree with you. How about another one? We'll see if we could just touch on your early thoughts. Washington laying over 3.5 to the Giants. I think they win this ball game by double digits. Giants laid it all on the line. It's Washington or bust for me.
Yeah, this is the game the Giants blew. Scored 3 touchdowns. Only team in the NFL history to score 3 touchdowns, not allow any, and lose the football game. I got a feeling the Giants win, Joe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now I know I'm right. We'll come back. We'll break down more week 9. Keep it where it is.
Yeah, it's getting cooler. Football weather is here. Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A U.S. bankruptcy judge approved a sale of Tupperware brands on Tuesday, paving the way for the iconic food storage company to soon exit Chapter 11 protection and continue offering its products while undergoing a hoped-for revitalization. The sale, given the court's green light in Delaware, still is subject to closing conditions. Under terms of the deal, a group of lenders is buying Tupperware's brand name and various operating assets for $23.5 million in cash and more than $63 million in debt relief. Kentucky's startup medical cannabis program should be positioned to ramp up quickly, but having products available for some patients at the outset will be a challenge, according to Governor Andy Beshear. Beshear's administration took a big step forward Monday when a state-run lottery selected 26 applicants for cultivation and processor licenses. Those growers and processors will be issued medical cannabis licenses after paying their license fee within 15 days. The state's medical cannabis program begins January 1st. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have a full tank of gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important. That's where we come in. SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week. The winning edge. It's your advantage to more winning more often. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the breakdown, we left off talking about the Commanders on the road to face off against the New York Giants. Let's not forget the Giants did lose that game. What did they have? That was the game with no kicker. And they scored touchdowns, and and they
Didn't
lost
allow
to,
any.
6 or 7 field goals by the Washington Commanders in that matchup. It's a rematch, and I understand a lot of people are buying into Washington now, Scott, but the problem that I have is I watched that game Monday night. I covered it for SportsGrid. Daniel Jones in a big spot. The guy is a deer in the headlights. I mean, with the game on the line, still throwing the football up for grabs. I mean, just bad interception. I mean, you're in basically striking distance. He panics yet again, throws it over Singletary, and signed, sealed, and delivered. And I know this number seems like you would want to take New York, but I just can't do it in a divisional game. The way you're checked out on certain teams, I'm checked out on the Giants. It's Washington or bust. I will say it's probably an under because I don't think the Giants are going to score on that defense.
The boys in Vegas have made their official flip now with Washington, right? The NFL in general, moving games from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock like they did last week, making them big-time favorites, whereas normally they would be underdogs. So now it's time to go opposite of that. Maybe we saw just a little bit of a hiccup in Jaden Daniels and his Washington offense last week when they struggled in the red zone. Time after time after time, the football in Chicago territory, and only came away with field goals or no points whatsoever. Giants own the Commanders. Remember, they won with Tommy Cutlets last year. And that was as Dolphin fans, we circle a loss against Cincinnati and why the Bungles got to draft Joey B and we got stuck with Tua tags. Giant fans last year circled the game against Washington, in which Tommy Cutlets somehow or another found a way to win. Hence, Washington got the little higher draft choice, able to draft Jaden Daniels. So, but that said, they always find a way to beat Washington. They scored 3 touchdowns, didn't allow any. First team in NFL history in week 2 to not win a football game under that scenario. Little extra chip on their shoulder from that game. Washington is all giddy. You don't score 3 touchdowns and give up none and lose a football game. It's never happened before. So that's a chip. And the Washington Commanders, they're all still watching the Chicago Bear defensive back waving to the fans. They're not prepared for the stinking Giants. If they were playing Dallas this week, okay, or Philadelphia, or a really good football team, you think they're all worried about the stinking Giants? No, they're still celebrating the Hail Mary. Giants walk in there and win outright. Outright.
All right, let's see. We'll see. We're on opposite sides. That is a 1 o'clock kick in MetLife. Last time the Giants played at 1 o'clock, a divisional opponent, they lost 28-3 and allowed their former running back to rush for $176 and 10 yards per carry. So we'll see how it plays out. Might be a big day for that rushing attack for Washington. Here's a tricky one. You got a West Coast team making the early kick in Cleveland, right? Justin Herbert breaks out with a back-to-back dynamic performances. 2 weeks ago on Monday night, he throws for 349 and they lose 17-15 against Arizona. He throws for over 250 yet again. They dominate the New Orleans Saints. They're laying 1.5 against famous Jameis Winston. 337. They're coming off an unbelievable upset of Baltimore's 8.5-point dogs. They win it 29-24. Total is 42. Last time I believe the Chargers played on the East Coast was Pittsburgh. That's the game that Herbert got hurt. It was a dead under 20-10, and they didn't cover. I like Cleveland as well. I'll take a shot, though, on this over on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I will tell you this. West Coast teams coming to the East Coast, believe it or not, historically have been very good against the spread. And 5-1 or 5-0-1, depending on what line you got in that Charger game, is the only one they haven't covered this year. Don't ask why, but these West Coast teams coming east, with Arizona especially, have had a field day. Looked it up, Joe, with Cleveland. Interesting numbers. Deshaun Watson, 19 starts. 8 of the 19, 8 versus 11, Browns have scored 20 points in only 8 of his 19 starts. 23 starts with backup quarterbacks. They've scored 20 points or more 16 of those 23 times, 16-7. I mean, there is a clear difference between Jameis Winston and the Browns offense and any other, not just Flacco. There's been a number of backup quarterbacks. They've all done better. So give me Winston, believe it or not, and the Browns in this one because they are just a different football team than they are with Deshaun Watson.
I agree. So let's take it a step further. Bigger discussion. If Cleveland wins, they'll be 3-6. There's no price for some reason on FanDuel for them to make the playoffs. They took it off the board. They got every other team listed except Cleveland. So I don't even know what the price would be. Would you buy in to the former coach of the year, Stefanski, doing it back-to-back years with a backup quarterback?
I'm not buying into Jameis Winston. I think they're too far behind the 8 ball. Again, they would be like Miami. They would have to go 8-1 with their schedule, as tough as it is, having to play Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati another time. No, it sounds good. It's appealing, but they're too far behind the 8 ball. And Jameis Winston, the bottom line, isn't that good.
Here's who they have: Chargers, Saints,
they win.
Steelers at home, Broncos on the road, Steelers on the road, Chiefs, Bengals. They could be checked out by then, the Bengals, right?
Right.
Dolphins and Ravens.
That's 8-1. If you think they got to go 10-7,
yeah, probably.
They would need to go 9-8. They would need, they would have to have hope that 9-8 gets them.
9-8 going to do it?
I don't think so. 3 wild card teams. Listen, no one's coming out of the AFC East, right? Let's say it's Baltimore and Pittsburgh in the AFC. So it's 1 wild card team. You're not getting a wild card team out of the South. Maybe the Chargers. 9-8 might actually get it done. Now that you really think about it, I mean, someone's got to get in. And all these teams are doing lousy.
Right. What about
I still don't think they would go for 2 losses.
Jacksonville's a plus 760 price.
They're off. They're off. I'd rather have the Browns.
Me too. Me too. We'll see. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with some NFC talk.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall. The World Series is on its way, and SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle, wrapping it up. I said we'll talk some NFC talk. Battle and NFC West battle, Seattle and the LA Rams. Scott, 2 weeks ago, I told you the price for the LA Rams was in the area of $7.90 to make the playoffs. They're down to plus 320 with back-to-back wins over the Raiders and their Thursday night performance over Minnesota. Really like the way this team is playing offensively, obviously, but the defense is holding opponents as well. They're holding them to field goals and not touchdowns, especially in the second half of ball games. I like Sean McVay. I think that's a pretty good price, and more importantly, like them in their game this weekend against Geno. Old man Geno.
Yeah. I do like them to make the postseason. That's still, it's not as good as it once was, but more and more people are hopping on the Rams bandwagon. And the fact that they're basically pick them as a slight favorite, on the road in Seattle really tells you how much they appreciate this team. So with Puka back and Cooper Kupp back, which was a surprise this past week, I mean, that's a halfway decent football team. I'll be curious to see if they make any moves at the trade deadline, because they are they're an organization that have shown that they're willing to do whatever it takes to actually win, whereas some teams just sit back and say whatever. I'm not comfortable laying point and a half on the road, but do I think they're a better team than Seattle? Yeah, I do.
Let me ask
Seattle's
you
usually
this:
tough at home, but I like LA.
Would you take? I would take a flyer to NFC West at 5-1. They have the head-to-head against San Francisco. They won that matchup 27-24. So they have the head-to-head, Scotty, right? So why wouldn't you take the 5-1? I know Arizona playing better. Seattle's got the same price. I mean, I don't buy into Seattle after starting out 3-0. I never thought that they were better than, a 500 football team at best. 8 wins, maybe 9 at top. I think the Rams, when healthy, could beat anybody.
Yeah. You get a few extra points there if you want them to win the division, but if McCaffrey comes back like it looks like he is, and the Niners get a little healthier, they are still the class. I mean, they unlike the other teams we talked about, are capable of going 8-1 the rest of the way. And I don't know if the Rams would, but I would put a half a unit on each. Take a little, maybe 3/4 on make the postseason, and then a quarter on win the division.
Are you impressed with Gannon and Arizona? I am. I think he's another underrated coach. His teams are always prepared, Scotty. They cover numbers as underdogs. Yeah. They did it yet again. That was a pretty good win that they got over Miami.
Yeah, they win because Kyler Murray scrambles. He's not throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. The guy's as small as my left foot. I mean, it's amazing. It's like watching a small guy. I mean, they're not going to win any big football game. I don't understand. If I'm a defensive coordinator facing Arizona, Joe, I'm telling these guys, listen, if you get a sack this week, you're going to get kicked off the team. I don't want any sacks. All I want you to do is keep this dude in the pocket. Because when he's in the pocket, he can't see and he can't throw the football. The only way he has success and that team has success is when he scrambles, creates plays. I get it. He's fast as lightning. And those are the NFL rules. But contain them and contain Arizona. I don't think they're any good. I really don't.
Yeah, defensively, they've been playing a little bit better. James Conner, one of the best running backs, in the NFC. He's productive. How many carries the rock? It's like 4 yards a carry and multiple touchdowns. Could catch the football out of the backfield as well. Arizona to make the playoffs right now, plus 210, and they're plus 290 to win the division. They have the head-to-head over San Francisco as well, winning that game 28-27. So we'll see how that plays out. When you look at Arizona this weekend, they're catching, I just had
one pick against the Bears.
Well, yeah, pick them now. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. I still give the edge. I'm not a buyer of the Bears. I know, from an offensive perspective, Caleb and the rushing attack with Roshan, but just as a team, Eberflus, again, I'd be shocked and stunned if this team wins 9 or 8 games this year. I think they're going to go south the rest of the way. Especially after giving up the Hail Mary.
Yeah. I tell you, when they blew that game, Joe? Wasn't a Hail Mary. It wasn't the play before the Hail Mary or even the play before the Hail Mary. It's the play, and this is what good head coaches do. They're down. They throw the ball on first down with 30 seconds left. And that stopped the clock and gave Washington all that time extra, and Washington ended up getting the football. Wasn't smart coaching.
Time management, we see it all the time. For our great producer, Danny Oler, Scott Wetzel, I'm Lisi. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great week, everyone.
Now you've done it. You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge.